Kent Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens make multiple sneaky moves, including signing a star goaltender out of the Swiss League in Connor Hughes. We have to get into that. Plus, Frank Saravalli of the Daily Faceoff says that he believes Marty Necas could be traded before Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. All of that, plus a note on the draft combine and the impact that it'll have this week on who the Montreal Canadiens select, coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And Jesse, we're just going to get straight into things, and I got to talk about the draft combine first. Now, we mentioned this a bit in the stream yesterday, but there's a lot of questions with a lot of prospects, and every year a lot of those questions get answered at the NHL draft combine, and it started yesterday with some of the interviews, a lot of stuff going on. And Jesse, one guy that we know that we got to talk about all the time is Kaiden Lindstrom. With his back issues, this is where you're going to see what's going to go down. In the coming days, we're going to see medical screening, and we're going to see physical testing, of both of which Kaiden Lindstrom and his camp will be participating in. Are you worried about these results at all? I'm a little anxious about this, not only for Kaiden Lindstrom, but for some of the other guys that a lot of Habs fans are talking about drafting, because a lot of the time some medical issues might come up that you never even knew about, and it'll either lower or even raise draft stock of some guys. I think this is going to answer a ton of questions in the next few days.
It will, and I feel very good answers for Kent Hughes and company that will be very busy at this combine with 12 picks to pick from in this year's draft, right? But if we learn one thing from Kaiden Lindstrom this year, with him just playing, with such a power forward type of mentality, I feel like this is actually just going to kind of reaffirm why they want to pick this player. Like, I see this player, even though having some problems of late, this guy is going to be a beast. He's going to be ready to go. He is absolutely going to obliterate these tests. He is a physical specimen. Just how Jaden Struble a couple years ago really just kind of blew it up. I'm seeing the same thing for Kaiden Lindstrom here. So I feel if more than anything, this is going to really affirm their decision. Of course, if Demidov is there, but I think Lindstrom and these results is really going to help solidify things for the Habs here.
I think being able to look through everything that he's been through, I'm sure they already have access to his medical records, but they can kind of go with him and do whatever testing they want. Not just the Habs, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of teams screening Kaiden Lindstrom, because you're seeing him in some mocks now drop as low as 10, 11, 12th overall. He's going to be the talk of the town come the time of medical screenings and physical testings. But yeah, this can have a ton of impact. And like you said, you never know. Even a guy that might be high on some list, like a Demidov, like a Seneca, might end up dropping because of an unforeseen medical issue. So we'll keep you updated on all that, but just wanted to let you guys know this is a week that you're going to have to pay attention to. But we're going to quickly move on to the next subject, and we got to talk a bit about Marty Necas. Jesse, we talk about him a lot, but as of yesterday, Frank Saravalli said something very interesting on the Daily Faceoff pod, and well, it's something that we're kind of surprised to hear. He said, "I wouldn't be shocked to see Marty Necas dealt before Game 1 of the Cup Final on Saturday." And of course, it's not only Frank Saravalli talking about Marty Necas. Just a few days ago, I believe it was May 30th, on the Ray and Dregs podcast, Aaron Dreger said the Montreal Canadiens, I believe, are right up there in terms of teams that should go after Necas. He said, "I'm connecting him to Montreal. I'm not saying it's going to go down, but that's the type of piece you'd expect Kent Hughes would want to add." When we look at Marty Necas, like we've done a lot, Jesse, of course, 53 points. He actually only had a 10.4 shooting percentage this season. You would expect that to go up a little bit in a style of play where he's more of a focal point. His Corsi 4 percentage was 61.8% this year, which means when he was on the ice, his team was way more likely to have a scoring chance than the other teams. He was controlling the ice a lot. I know we talk a lot about Necas, but to hear that he might get traded as soon as this week, and to know that last year Kent Hughes made a little move in getting Newhook just a bit before the draft, I'm starting to get more and more excited.
Absolutely. The rumors were already hot, but it just keeps heating up all the time. And also, Dreger was saying that he's asked out of Carolina multiple times now. Also, Martin Necas, his father's upset. Like, this move is just happening, right? Like, this writing is definitely on the wall. So it's going to be really interesting just to see how the Habs kind of go forward, because this is really almost kind of turning into a sweepstakes in a lot of ways right now. We know a lot of teams are really looking, to add a player of his caliber. But the one thing with the Habs right now is saying, like, it's the consistency, according to Ferrero, right? That's the one thing that he really wants to see changed. But you have to feel, like you said, Kent Hughes is very likely to make a move like this or something very similar, because Darren Dreger also had something very interesting to say in that segment as well, saying that the rebuild is over for the Montreal Canadiens, that they need to do something now. And if they don't, then the Habs fans might start getting impatient, right? We know what a market this is. you got to feel like Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, you want to make a plan ahead of time, right? You don't want to make a plan once you're out in the woods. You want to do it ahead of time. The best plan to make a time for tomorrow is really today, right? So I really feel like this could be a very interesting move going forward. We'll just have to see how competitive the Montreal Canadiens really want to be right now.
And it also depends on the trade price too, because Elliot Friedman recently said, hey, the Vancouver Canucks right now talking about they're in the Necas trade talks. He said without Pettersson on the table, it's going to be tougher. And he's like, I don't think Roenick's going to get it done. A star defenseman who's 26 years old might not get it done. That might be a bit scary to hear from Montreal fans. But again, Montreal has a ton of draft capital. I know Carolina might be looking for a more established player, but all we can do right now is speculate and wait. It seems like the price might be higher than we had first anticipated, but I still think Kent Hughes has the magic to get it done because he has a lot of interesting pieces he can dangle in front of them. But the final thing we got to talk about, Jesse, is the actual moves the Habs made, and they made a few nice little sneaky moves, and we're going to start first with a great goaltender signing, and some people screaming nepotism. No, it is not. It is not a relative of Kent Hughes. I'm actually going to change to this look here because you can actually see us. It's not nepotism. It's Connor Hughes, who was a star goalie in the Swiss A-League. Jesse, he was absolutely phenomenal. If we take a look at, not him, not Neto, if you take a look at Connor Hughes' stats, you might not be able to see him in high def. You probably can if you pause and zoom, but a .934 save percentage with the 2 goals against average from 17 playoff games, 19 regular season games with a 1.73 GAA, .940 save percentage. He's 27 years old. He has some aspirations to play in the NHL if things go well, and while the Habs have Dobeš and Kaskisuo for one more year in the AHL, you gotta think Kaskisuo might be on the way out with Connor Hughes coming in. I feel like some people are calling this a weird signing. I think it makes perfect sense. You can never have too many goalies, especially, in such a volatile area of the AHL, and when you only have 2 guys in the NHL, you always want to have backups. This guy just seems like a no-risk move, undrafted guy, 27 years old, phenomenal numbers in a good league. I'm actually kind of excited to see what him and Dobeš and Kaskisuo can accomplish this season.
Yeah, and even looking back over the last 5 years, right, he's really put up some good numbers. I think that this is a sneaky and very important move for the Laval Rockets to make the playoffs next year, because we saw like a big issue with them last year is like Jacob Dobeš had an amazing second half of his season, right? But it was maybe that slower start, that first half that wasn't so great, which really cost the Laval Rocket of making it, right? So you got to feel having a lot more of a stable kind of duo there. And of course, with Jacob Dobeš being so young, we're looking at a goalie here in Connor Hughes that, he's getting a little bit on the older side, but that experience is really going to serve him well. And like you said, like some amazing numbers, the best GAA and best save percentage, in the National League in Swiss, it's not something to laugh at.
No, it's definitely not. And sometimes goalies just start to peak at the age he is now. Goalie trends are really weird. He was undrafted. He didn't have very good years for a long time, but he's starting to put things together, and you never really know what he can do. And while Dobeš certainly is the #1 heading into next season in Laval, I wouldn't be surprised if Connor Hughes had played a crucial role for this team, just like Kaskisuo did this year, just to have that extra bit, right? Now that Primeau's gone, you have that solid 3 goalie core, and yeah, I think it's just going to be great for them making the playoffs. I think you're very right. It's a sneaky move. Will he ever play for Montreal? Probably not, but I just think it's a perfect move to get some more success in the farm system, especially when you have a lot of young guys coming in. But that's not the only thing the Habs did today. I want to talk a bit about another thing they did. Free agent winger Josh Nadeau of Maine is going to the Montreal development camp. He had 18 goals, 27 assists, 45 points in 37 games as a freshman at the University of Maine last season. And as I bring up his stats here, you guys might recognize the name Nadeau. His younger brother Bradley actually played a game for the Carolina Hurricanes this year. He also went to the University of Maine. They both put up very similar numbers. You can see those pretty crazy BCHL numbers there with the Penticton Vs with 110 points in 54 games. The issue is, Jesse, he's 5'8", but he's very skilled. He's a cerebral player. I don't think he's going to make any impact for the Habs, but just one of those guys that, like, what's the risk? He's playing really, really well in NCAA hockey. His brother already has an NHL game and was a first-round pick, 30th overall. While Josh is not quite the same caliber and he went undrafted, those 2 inches of height do make a difference. His brother's 5'10", Josh is 5'8". I feel like it's, again, just one of these no-risk moves, one of these things where you can see a guy play and he could be used as a depth piece in the AHL or even the ECHL if we want to put him down there. But I just like this. I like the idea that we're already going out, scouting out some really good college guys like we know Kent Hughes loves to do, to bring him into the organization in one way or another.
And you got to feel playing at the University of Maine that obviously Kent Hughes has seen a lot of hockey in this area, right? So this is where it's come from. This is a guy, he's actually from BC and not QC. The name can be a little bit deceiving there, right? But again, it's like the Habs know that they need size, but again, it's a very low risk move. There's still, skill is, a player with offensive upside, that there's still something there, right? So they're giving him an opportunity. Hey, surprise us at camp. What can you kind of do, right? So it'll be really interesting to see kind of going forward. And we got to cast that net, and we're really getting ready already for next season, which just gets me excited, Josh.
At the very least, he's going to be fodder for Lane Hudson and David Reinbacher to absolutely dominate in camp. I don't want to say that about Josh Neto right now. I hope he plays well. But the thing is, you need good skilled players to go up against your other skilled players in camp. And these guys, these underdog stories, sometimes they have a nice ending. Who knows where he'll end up? Is it the NHL? Almost certainly not. But, in the AHL, ECHL, or even in the system somehow, I think it'd be kind of cool. But let us know what you guys think about these Habs moves down below. We'd love to hear from you, because for now, that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. And if you enjoyed, leave a like on the video. That's all we ask. Just leave a like on the video. We really appreciate when you guys do that. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.